What if everything you've been taught about money is actually holding you back from building real wealth? I'm not talking about investment strategies or budgeting hacks. I'm talking about the invisible scripts running in your mind that dictate every financial decision you make. These psychological patterns, often formed in childhood, can silently sabotage your success for decades without you even realizing it. The truth is, consider this. Uncover why your brain might be your biggest financial obstacle, and how to rewrite those hidden programs for good. What if everything you've been taught about money is a carefully constructed lie? We've been conditioned to believe wealth is about spreadsheets, salaries, and smart investments, but that's only the surface. The real game happens in the shadows of your mind, in the subconscious beliefs and emotional triggers that dictate every financial decision you make. Imagine uncovering the hidden psychological scripts that have been running your financial life on autopilot. This isn't another budgeting tutorial or get-rich-quick scheme. We're going to dismantle the myth that financial success is purely mathematical. Instead, we'll explore how your deepest fears, your relationship with scarcity, and even your childhood memories shape your financial reality more than any stock pick ever could. Are you ready to confront the invisible forces that keep people stuck? Prepare to see money not as numbers in an account, but as a mirror reflecting your innermost psychology. The journey to true wealth begins not with your portfolio, but with your perception. What if everything you think you know about money is actually a carefully constructed illusion? For centuries. But this cold calculus ignores the most powerful variable in the equation, the human brain itself. Our financial decisions aren't made in spreadsheets. They're forged in the neural pathways shaped by evolution, culture, and personal experience. Consider this striking paradox. Two people can earn identical salaries, face similar expenses, yet end up in completely different financial universes decades later. The difference isn't just discipline or opportunity. It's the invisible psychological architecture governing how each perceives risk, values future rewards, and interprets what money even means. Modern neuroscience reveals that financial choices activate the same brain regions as primal threats and rewards. When market volatility strikes, it's not just your portfolio reacting, it's your amygdala triggering fight or flight responses programmed over millennia. Throughout human history, our relationship with resources was intensely local and immediate. For 99% of our existence, we lived in hunter-gatherer societies where hoarding was impossible and sharing was survival. The concept of saving for retirement would have been incomprehensible when life expectancy hovered around 30 years. These deep-seated instincts now collide with a world of compound interest, global markets, and digital currencies, creating what psychologists call evolutionary mismatch. Our brains simply weren't designed for the financial complexity we now navigate. Look at the research from behavioral economists like Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler. Their Nobel Prize-winning work demonstrates how cognitive biases systematically distort financial judgment. The pain of losing $100 feels psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same amount, a phenomenon called loss aversion that explains why people sell winning stocks too early and hold losing positions too long. We overweight recent experiences, follow herd mentalities, and confuse luck with skill in random financial outcomes. Even our perception of wealth is remarkably relative. Studies show happiness from increased income plateaus once basic needs are met, not at some absolute number, but relative to our reference groups. A person earning $100,000 among millionaires often feels poorer than someone earning $50,000 among those earning $30,000. This explains why the relentless pursuit of more frequently fails to deliver lasting satisfaction. Money operates less like mathematics and more like a language, its meaning constantly negotiated through social comparison and personal narrative. The financial industry rarely acknowledges this psychological dimension, preferring to present money management as technical problem-solving. But understanding these hidden drivers might be the most valuable financial literacy of all. The screen goes black. not the gentle fade of evening. That's what happens when your financial life hits a wall. One moment you're cruising, the next, everything stops. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet turning red. This is the internal war that begins the moment your reality and your financial expectations violently collide. Have you ever felt the cold dread of an overdraft notice? It's not just text on a phone. It's a physical sensation, a tightening in your chest that whispers a terrifying question. What if I can't fix this? Another angle. This is the birthplace of the conflict. It's the chasm between the life you've built and the life you can actually afford. We are all living two lives simultaneously. The one we present to the world, polished and successful, and the one we live in the quiet, anxious moments, calculating how to make it to the next paycheck. Look at the person driving the luxury car. You see confidence, achievement. But what you don't see is the 96-month loan, the maxed-out credit cards used for the down payment, the constant grinding pressure to maintain an image that is financially hollow. We are wired for social comparison, a trait that served us on the savannah but bankrupts us in the suburbs. Our brains haven't evolved to handle the abstract concept of compound debt, only the immediate, visceral reward of social status. Zoom in. This is the primal scream of our psychology against the cold logic of a budget. Why do we do this to ourselves? The answer lies in a battlefield of competing identities. One part of you is the rational planner, the one who knows you should save, who understands compound interest. The other is the emotional creature, desperate for belonging, terrified of being left behind, seeking the quick hit of dopamine that a new purchase provides. These two selves are not allies. They are in a constant, silent civil war for control of your wallet. The planner wants to plant an oak tree. The emotional self wants to light a firework. Consider the lottery winner. We've all heard the stories of rags to riches and back to rags. It's not a mystery of math. It's a tragedy of psychology. A sudden windfall doesn't change your mind. It merely amplifies the financial identity that was already there. If you were a spender with a little, you become a catastrophic spender with a lot. The conflict wasn't about the money. It was always about you. The money just turned up the volume on a conversation you were already having with yourself. Hard truth. Look at the self-made millionaire next door, the one driving a 10-year-old car. Their conflict was resolved not by earning more, but by aligning their behavior with their long-term goals. They won the internal war. They made peace with delayed gratification. But for most, the tension is relentless. It's the Friday night dilemma. Do you transfer that last $100 into your savings account? Or do you go out with friends and feel for a few hours like everything is okay? That single decision is a microcosm of the entire struggle. We are swimming in a sea of targeted advertising designed to exploit every one of our psychological vulnerabilities. Our fear of missing out, our desire for instant gratification, our deep-seated need to signal our worth to the tribe. Every click, every buy now button is a skirmish in this war. The algorithms know your weaknesses better than you do. They don't sell you products, they sell you emotional resolutions to your internal conflicts. They offer a temporary ceasefire in your mental civil war for a price. Consider this. This is the great tension of modern wealth. It's no longer just about survival. It's about meaning. It's the agonizing choice between the security of a fully funded emergency account and the perceived security of a new watch that makes you feel respected. We are trying to solve emotional problems with financial solutions, and it never, ever works. The hole is not in your bank account, it's in your soul. And you cannot fill a soul-shaped hole with dollar bills. The real cost of financial conflict isn't measured in interest rates or late fees. It's measured in sleepless nights. It's the weight of a secret you keep from your partner. It's the dreams you quietly abandon because they feel too expensive. Consider this. This is the shadow economy of our psychological lives, where we trade our peace of mind for things we don't need to impress people we don't even like. The war is real. And the first step to winning it is to admit that the enemy isn't the economy, or your job, or your circumstances. The enemy is the story you tell yourself about what money means. What if I told you that your relationship with money isn't about numbers at all? It's a story you've been telling yourself since childhood, a narrative woven from every financial conversation you overheard, every purchase you witnessed your parents stress over, every cultural message about what wealth should look like. We carry these invisible scripts into every financial decision we make, yet we rarely pause to examine whether they're serving us or silently sabotaging our potential. Picture two people earning identical salaries. One feels perpetually behind, constantly anxious about not having enough, while the other moves through life with quiet confidence and financial peace. The difference isn't in their bank accounts, it's in their minds. The first person might be carrying what I call a scarcity inheritance, perhaps from parents who survived economic hardship and passed down that survival mindset as the only truth about money. The second might have absorbed a different narrative, one where money is a tool for creating security and possibility rather than something to constantly fear. Have you ever noticed how your financial anxiety spikes right after paying bills, even when you know you can comfortably afford them? That visceral reaction isn't about mathematics. It's your emotional brain reliving past financial stressors. Our nervous systems remember every financial shock we've experienced, creating neural pathways that fire automatically when similar situations arise. This explains why someone who once struggled financially might continue feeling poor long after their circumstances have dramatically improved. The body keeps the score, and the wallet bears the emotional burden. Consider this fascinating paradox. We often believe we make financial decisions based on logic, yet research shows nearly 90% of our money choices are emotionally driven. We chase promotions thinking they'll bring happiness, only to discover the goalpost of enough keeps moving further away. We avoid investing not because we don't understand compound interest, but because the possibility of loss triggers deeper fears than the potential for gain excites us. We're not rational calculators, we're emotional creatures who happen to do math sometimes. The most successful wealth builders I've studied share a surprising trait. They've learned to separate their self-worth from their net worth. They understand that money is what you have, not who you are. This mental distinction creates extraordinary freedom, the ability to make clear-eyed decisions without your identity being on the line with every investment. When your ego isn't wrapped up in your portfolio, you can take calculated risks without fearing that failure would mean you're a failure as a person. Think about the last time you made an impulse purchase. Was it really about the object itself, or was it about the story you told yourself in that moment? I deserve this. This will make me feel better. This proves I've made it. We use spending as emotional medicine, as social signaling, as compensation for parts of our lives that feel lacking. The purchase becomes a temporary solution to an emotional problem, which is why the satisfaction often fades so quickly, leaving us searching for the next financial quick fix. Quick thought: what changes everything? When you start viewing money not as a scorecard, but as stored life energy. Every dollar represents time from your finite life that you exchanged for it. When you look at a potential purchase through this lens, the question shifts from, can I afford this, to, is this worth the hours of my life I traded to earn this money? This single perspective shift can transform frivolous spending into intentional investing in what truly matters to you. Wealth isn't about the number in your bank account. It's about the number of days you can sustain your preferred lifestyle without having to work. True financial freedom arrives when your money works so hard for you that you don't have to. But this requires something most people never develop: the ability to delay gratification in service of a larger vision. The capacity to plant trees under whose shade you may never sit. The wisdom to understand that the best time to build financial resilience was yesterday, and the second best time is today. Your financial future isn't predetermined by your past or your current circumstances. It's shaped by the stories you choose to believe about money. the emotional patterns you consciously rewire, and the daily decisions that gradually compound into either constraint or freedom. The most valuable investment you'll ever make isn't in stocks or real estate. It's in understanding the invisible forces driving your financial behavior and consciously designing a healthier relationship with wealth. That's where true abundance begins. Imagine a man named David, who inherited a modest sum from his grandfather. He didn't see it as life-changing money. What would you do with a sudden, unexpected windfall? For David, the money felt like a test, a responsibility. He could have bought a flashy car, taken a lavish vacation, but instead, he remembered his grandfather's hands, calloused from a lifetime of work. That memory anchored him. He used the inheritance as a down payment on a duplex, living in one unit and renting the other. The rental income didn't just cover his mortgage, it bought him something priceless: time. He reduced his work hours to spend more with his young family. David's story isn't about a grand financial strategy. It's about a quiet, almost invisible choice that compounded into freedom. Then there's Maria, a freelance graphic designer whose income was a roller coaster. One month would be feast, the next a worrying famine. How do you build stability when your cash flow is so unpredictable? She realized her anxiety wasn't about the money itself, but the story she was telling herself about it, the narrative of scarcity. Here's a twist. She reframed it. She created a personal payroll system. Whenever a client payment landed, she immediately paid her future self a consistent, modest salary into a separate account. The rest was allocated for taxes and business expenses. This simple mental trick transformed her relationship with money. It was no longer a chaotic force. It became a predictable, manageable tool. She stopped feeling like a victim of her income and started feeling like the CEO of her own life. Consider the contrast between two friends, Alex and Sam, who both decided to invest. Alex dove in headfirst, chasing the latest hot stock tips, his phone buzzing with alerts. He was playing a game, and it was thrilling, until it wasn't. A sudden market dip felt like a personal failure. He sold in a panic, locking in losses. Sam, on the other hand, took a different path. He set up automatic monthly contributions to a low-cost index fund, and then he mostly forgot about it. He didn't check the price daily. He didn't tie his self-worth to its performance. A decade later, whose portfolio do you think was healthier? It was Sam's. Not because he was smarter, but because his system was built on patience and emotional distance, not on the adrenaline of the chase. What about the couple, James and Liam, who seemed to have it all? High-powered jobs, a beautiful home, the perfect Instagram life. But behind the filters, they were drowning in stress and secret debt. Their breaking point came during a heated argument over a trivial purchase. It wasn't about the money. It was about the values they had never discussed. They started having weekly money dates, just 20 minutes with a cup of coffee to talk openly about their fears and goals. They discovered their financial conflicts were really clashes of underlying psychology. His fear of not being a good provider, her anxiety about losing independence. By bringing those hidden drivers into the light, they stopped fighting each other and started building a shared plan. Their net worth didn't just grow, their relationship did too. Finally, picture an elderly woman named Eleanor living in a small, paid-off house. She never earned a six-figure salary, yet she's completely at peace. Her wealth is invisible. It's in her well-tended garden, her stack of library books, her deep connections with neighbors. She understands something profound. That richness isn't a number in a bank account, but a feeling of enough. While others are running on the hamster wheel of more, she is content. Her life is a masterclass in the psychology of sufficiency. She proves that the ultimate application of financial wisdom isn't about maximizing wealth, but about optimizing for a life well lived. Picture this. Identify your money story. What did your family teach you about wealth? Was it a source of security, anxiety, or conflict? Uncovering these subconscious beliefs is the foundation for everything that follows. Next, reframe scarcity thinking. When you feel that pang of, there's never enough, pause. Ask yourself, is this a fact or a fear? Replace that mental narrative with evidence of your actual capacity to earn and grow. Automate your financial virtues. Set up systems that make good behavior effortless. Direct deposits into investment accounts. Automated bill payments. This outsources discipline to technology, freeing your mental energy for more creative pursuits. How often do you check your portfolio? For many, it's a daily ritual of self-flagellation. Limit your exposure to market noise. Schedule one monthly review. Anything more is just emotional gambling disguised as vigilance. Create a slush fund for irrationality. Budget 5% of your income for completely guilt-free spending. This isn't an emergency fund. It's an acknowledgement that we're human beings who occasionally need to make financially unsound decisions to feel alive. Practice financial gratitude. Before calculating what you lack, inventory what you already control. This simple cognitive shift, from deficit to abundance, fundamentally rewires how you perceive opportunity and risk. Finally, define what enough means to you. Not what society demands. That number is far lower than you imagine, and discovering it is the ultimate psychological liberation. What if the most radical financial move isn't about chasing more, but about questioning why we want it in the first place? We've spent decades treating money as a math problem. Yet the calculator in our hands matters far less than the ghost in our machine. The invisible architecture of fear and desire built long before we ever earned our first dollar. Picture this. Two people with identical portfolios, identical incomes. One lies awake at 3 a.m. convinced they're one bad month from ruin. The other sleeps soundly, knowing they have enough. The difference isn't in their bank statements, but in the stories they tell themselves about what those numbers mean. Our financial lives are lived not in spreadsheets, but in the nervous system, in the quiet moments of decision where logic rarely visits. Pause for a second. Where does this leave us? With the unsettling realization that financial freedom might be less about reaching some magic number and more about rewriting the internal scripts that keep us feeling poor even when we're not. The wealthy mindset isn't something you inherit or stumble upon. It's something you build sentence by sentence, belief by belief, through conscious effort to separate your self-worth from your net worth. The real wealth was inside us all along? Not exactly. But the capacity to feel wealthy, to experience genuine security and abundance regardless of external circumstances, that's a psychological skill far more valuable than any stock tip or investment strategy. Money amplifies who you already are. It doesn't create character, it reveals it. And perhaps the greatest investment we can make isn't in markets at all, but in understanding why we want what we want, and whether getting it will actually deliver the peace we're secretly chasing. The next time you find yourself anxious about money, ask not just, how can I get more, but what story am I telling myself about what this money means? That single question might be worth more than your entire portfolio, because true wealth isn't about having everything you want. It's about wanting what you already have, while still building toward meaningful growth. And that's a balance no algorithm can calculate, but every human can learn to feel.